It's been a while since we've seen each other,
Yeah.
but I've been keeping updated with what you're doing. And I want to start off a little bit before we got to this point in your career.
Okay.
You started off as a drummer.
I did. I started off as a drummer. I got my first set of drums when I was 5. And I played drums all the way throughout until high school, until I got my first guitar.
And what made you want to get a guitar? Why did you move from the drums to the guitar?
Songwriting.
Okay.
I always thought music was something I wanted to do. And so started just playing for fun. And then I was like, hey, I want to write a song. So got a guitar, started writing songs. And then it just progressed into more and more things. It was, okay, now that I've wrote a song, I want to be in a band. So I started a band. Okay, now I'm in a band, I want to tour. So then you go play shows. Now I've toured, now I want to write an album. So it worked. It started from the bottom and worked its way up. Or from the back to the front of the stage, if you will.
Yeah, no doubt. And how do you go from the back to being the front? Was it a fairly easy move for you? Did you find it nerve-wracking?
So funny story. Up until I started this project, I had never sang in front of another person.
Okay.
Ever. My first show was the first time I sang in front of people, and it was at a show.
How do you do that?
You just got to do it. It's like jumping off the high diving board, the swimming pool. You just do it.
Was there any point where you were like, this is ridiculous, I'm backing out?
No.
Good.
At that point, I don't want to say seasoned, but I had played in bands as a guitar player for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was natural to just jump on a stage. Just I was doing something different this time.
What made you decide that you had the voice to get up in front?
I still don't have the voice to get up. I don't think I'll ever be satisfied. I think that's a creationist thing, is you're never quite satisfied with where you're at. You're always evolving and trying to get better at what you're doing. So where I am today, it's better than where I started, but I still don't see myself as being where, I don't know what the right word is. It's not ideally, it's not should be, but I'm not there yet.
You're not where you want to be.
I don't think I'm where I'm going to end up.
Okay.
So
That's a good way of putting it.
I don't know where I want to be. I'm going to end up somewhere else than where I am now.
Now, when you first started songwriting, was that to do with your aunt? Or was it this album that was to do with your aunt?
So actually the first show that I played was for a benefit show for murdered and missing Aboriginal women. So the first song I wrote for this project was a song I wrote for that benefit show. And the other song I played that night was for my aunt who had just passed away as well. So yeah, the first song I ever wrote for this was for the murdered and missing Aboriginal women.
And you haven't brought yourself to record the song that you wrote for your aunt, though?
Not yet.
Why is that?
I have bigger plans for it.
Okay. Bigger plans as in somebody else taking it over? Or waiting until you reach that point where you can do it justice?
I think it didn't mesh with this album. So this album actually is not the album. Funny thing I've always said with one of my best friends is your first album should be called your greatest hits, because you have your entire life to write your first album and you have like 2 years to write your second one.
Right.
So what I did is I wrote 3 albums. So this is volume 1 of 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's intense. I mean, I know you're saying that you have your entire life to do it, but you didn't start songwriting at the beginning of your life, obviously.
No.
How many years ago was it?
This is, I guess now would be 5 technically if you count calendar years, but it's been about 4.5 years.
Okay. And is it always easy to put what you're thinking to paper?
No. No, actually I don't put anything to paper for a long time.
Okay.
How I write songs is I will write the melody on the guitar, usually, and then I will record it, and then I'll play it in my vehicle for sometimes months, and I will sing an ad-lib to it, to an instrumental track, until I catch that earworm.
Wow.
And then if I remember it the next day, it stays. If I don't remember it, it's gone.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're not one of those people that like you wake up in the middle of the night with this thought and you have to write it down so you don't forget it. If you forget it, you don't think it's good enough.
Um, I will grab my guitar
Okay.
and I will play the medley that I want. I don't dream in lyrics. I dream in sounds.
And you've actually written, I think there's only one song that you've written before having the melody, right? You do it all.
There was one song that I wrote the words before I did the melody.
Is that unusual?
For me it is, but apparently that's the norm
Mm-hmm.
in songwriting. So I'm not sure.
So you're creative in a different way.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
I think it was like 2 years ago, maybe longer than that, when we were sitting in your car and you showed me one of your songs. You've come a long way since that, obviously. What pushed you far enough to put it on a CD?
I think what it is what's the word I want? Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
At some point I realized no matter what you do, when you die, you are going to be forgotten. Whether it's a generation or two, you become nothing essentially. And the only thing that survives is music. And so my thought was, if I had passed away yesterday and I had never put anything out, there would be nothing to remember me by. And so this collection of songs is something I wanted to get out there as a voice I could have forever.
I really like that, but in saying that, you do know that people would remember you in this generation, right?
I'm aware.
Okay.
I'm aware of that. I'm aware. But like, for example, a few years ago, my grandpa passed away, and I know nothing about him,
Okay.
and nor does anyone else in my family. So for me, I'd like my grandkids to at least have something. They could search me up and be like, oh, that was my grandpa, you know?
Yeah. That's very cool. You just played a show, right? Was it last Friday?
The 24th, I did my
Okay.
album release on January 24th.
And what was that like?
It was different.
Different how?
So from the start of this, I had the same group of musicians playing with me.
Mm-hmm.
And for the album release, I had a new drummer.
Oh.
And we had only practiced twice. So it was very different having a different group of people on stage with me for the show.
And then once you get on stage, they start playing, you start singing. Does it all just sort of come together, or is there still that little voice in the back of your mind that is like, this isn't what I'm used to?
I'm really good with rolling with the punches.
Good.
I'm really good with that. And the drummer that I had, one of my good friends, he said, we're just playing heads up hockey tonight. And I said, you know what? That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So you have 3 albums that you've written.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first one.
Yes.
When can we expect the next 2? Are you sort of waiting to coast this one out?
I'd like to release them every year for the next 2 years on the same day that I release that one.
Okay. And does that day signify anything to you?
Not at all.
Okay.
I would just
But it will.
Yes, it will. I would just kind of like them to be released around the same time.
Okay. Now, Blanket of Ghosts, how did you come up with that title?
So my favorite songwriter of all time, his name is Dustin Kensrue. He's lead singer for a band called Thrice.
Okay.
He had an album that came out, I believe it was 2007, and Blanket of Ghosts was the final song of that album. And that one song was like really good.
Okay.
So as a way to pay tribute to him, I named my album Blanket of Ghosts.
Neat. Do you have an absolute favorite song? I know there's different songs that you would suggest to other people to listen to if they're first time listeners or if they're a little bit more used to your style.
Mm-hmm.
But is there one in particular that you absolutely love?
On this album,
Mm-hmm.
I have one that I love playing, and I have one I love listening to.
Okay.
So Amsterdam would be the one I love listening to. I can never play it live.
Really?
Well, okay, so on this album, I played every instrument, wrote every song, the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Amsterdam starts with a harmonica. It goes into a banjo, then a mandolin. There's 12-string guitars, 6-string guitars, electric acoustic, there's piano, there's everything.
And you did all that?
Yes. Cannot play that live.
That's understandable.
I mean, I can play instruments, but I can't do it all like that. Not by myself, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that one I love listening to. If one of your viewers is a first-time listener, Amsterdam is the direction musically that the next album will sound most like.
Okay.
They're big. They're big songs, lots of instruments, lots of melodies, lots of extra parts. In terms of playing live, I love playing Environment Canada.
Okay.
It's a funky, upbeat song, and I get to like rap in it.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
And not being a rapper, how did you decide to put rap into it?
Well, it's just really fast.
Okay.
So I call it rap. It's just super fast. But it's just a fun song. Yeah.
Now, not only can you get this in your hand, but you're also on Spotify, which is kind of huge, isn't it? How did that happen?
I wish I could take credit for that. It all goes through the distributor. I went through a company and they distribute it to Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff.
That's not easy to get to even a distributor, though.
If you give them your credit card number, it catches.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it the same distributor then that will do the next two albums, or is that something you get to change if you decide to?
If I want to, but I had a really good experience, so I'll be using the same one.
Okay. Do you have any upcoming shows?
I have one that I can talk about,
okay.
Although I don't have tickets for it yet. I would love to like give tickets away. There's a festival called Fall Jam. It's held in St. Andrews.
Okay.
And I will be playing on, I want to say the Saturday,
okay.
But I'd have to double check.
Okay.
But I will be playing that in August. And so actually it's good you asked me that. I'd been talking to a company in Japan recently, and they were going to bring me out for a few shows.
That's awesome.
Right, but Uncle Jesse and the Rippers always. That's a dream of mine. But unfortunately, the coronavirus is keeping me away from it.
Is that something that once that's all settled down, they'll have you spoken to them and they've decided that they'll still bring you out once that's
it's a standing offer.
Okay.
So in the meantime, I've been contacting places in Europe to go back and play shows out there.
If you're big in Japan, you're big everywhere.
That's the goal.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you.
Where in Europe? Is there a certain place that you want to go to?
I'd like to go back to the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
I had some success there in 2018. They named me like a top musical influencer.
Awesome.
Sorry. So the Netherlands would be a top pick. I had a place in Budapest that asked me to come play, and there's one in Germany I'm talking to right now. So, like I said, talking is one thing, getting there and doing is another one.
Good for you, though. That's the first step, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you feel we should know, maybe where we can find you?
I'm basically on every one of the social media sites. If you guys search it up, you'll find me somewhere. But look forward to the albums coming out because it's all on one big thing. And each album actually comes with a book.
Okay.
So I'm writing a novella for each one. And every chapter follows every track listing as well. And so the novella for Blanket of Ghost is basically done. It's just being proofread. And I should have a book release for that this summer.
That's so cool. What made you decide to write a book to go with it?
It's hard to sell music these days. You got to add value.
That's a fair point. With the book, is it explaining each song, or what can we expect? Is it a fictional book?
Yes. Okay, so it's a fictional book. So we'll take, for example, we'll go with Environment Canada again. There is a chapter in the book where the main character leaves his home village, and Environment Canada is explained in the book as his surroundings, where he is, his travels to where he's going next.
Okay.
So while the chapters have the names of the songs, they're just like a brief reference to it.
Wow.
The book has its own story.
So writing is really in your heart. It's what you wanted to do forever, I guess.
I think there's another way to tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a song on my album called Mega Satan. It's about my ex-girlfriend. And so I took a lot of liberties in writing the chapter Mega Satan, explaining the character, and I got to take a couple extra little jabs.
That's pretty cool, though, because not only are you getting your feelings out in your songs, which people can always listen to and sort of get their own idea of what a song is actually about.
Mm-hmm.
But for you to be able to put it in writing in a book, it just brings a whole other level to it.
Exactly. And it's funny, the song title names, like, Highway 6 is an actual highway. I don't know if you've ever been up Highway 6.
I don't think so.
It runs, from the North Perimeter through St. Laurent and Lundar and Asher and all the way up to Thompson.
Okay.
There's quite a funny collection of people who live up that highway. So that's based on all true stuff. Environment Canada, again, that one was originally titled And We Go. And I played it for a guy at work, and he said, that sounds like it should be on the Weather Channel. And I rolled with it.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. One more question that I try to ask everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You already know what it is. And you are wearing awesome ones today. What type of socks do you normally wear?
I have 2 sets of socks.
Okay.
I have a work set of socks that I will just destroy. Those are no problem. But the comfy socks that I'll wear on the weekends are Reebok.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were these specially bought for tonight?
No, these were specially bought for my bass player's wedding.
Awesome.
It matched our suits.
I like your bass player. That's wicked. I'll get you to show them to the camera because they can't miss these.
Oh, I think there's some on the bottom. If that works.
There is. You're right.
Yeah.
Stormtroopers, right? That's
Yeah.
what those are? Okay. I constantly get bugged that I don't know the difference between stormtroopers and clone troopers.
There's scout troopers. There's all kinds of troopers.
Okay. I got to read up. But they are awesome socks. They do match. Your socks always match though, right?
Yes. I know you're disappointed.
It's all right. These ones are funky, so I'll let it slide. Cool. Well, I can't wait to hear the rest. And you'll have to let us know when you have tickets to your next show.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thanks, AJ.
No problem.